Gopijanavalabha Girivaradhari Gopijanavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Nativa Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Vijanavalabha Girivaradhari Vijanavalabha Girivaradhari Shodanandana Rajajanarandana Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Madhava Kunjavihari Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha. Jaya Radha Samasundara Samasundara. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba. Abhachan Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Iskan Pamachari Divine Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Yo Vishnu Paparam Sabarvachkacharya Sutra Sudakshi Shri Divine Shri Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Anand Puri Vaishnava ki jai, Namachar Shri Viras Thakur ki jai, Prince Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaura Bhaktan Ki Jai Shri Shiva Hare Krishna Gopika Shyam Radha Kunj Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktavan Ki Jai Kandarajman Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Nitai Gopavanande. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories to the simple devotees. All glories, Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glories, Shri Prabhupada Ki.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna and welcome to all the devotees online. Thank you very much for your association online. We're continuing our Srimad Bhagavatam series, Canto 1, Chapter 4, verses 26 to 33. We're going to be completing this chapter, the appearance of Sri Narad Muni. Let us start with the prayers. Om Jnanatimi Vandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmei Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utaparakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavinebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Piyusha Sarva Vedika Satphala Sarva Siddhantas Ratnadya Sarva Lokai Tritprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kali Dvando Didaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churned from the ocean of all Vedic scriptures, O most prominent chancellor of all the Vedas, O you enriched with the jewels of all spiritual philosophical conclusions, O you grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees. O Lord, you are the sun which has arisen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned amongst us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshasha Rayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. By reading you one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are incarnation of Lord Krishna. Madeka Bando Mat Sangi Man Guru Man Mahadana Man Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Manananda Namastute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu Sadhu Tadai Natini Chochataraka Hanamuncha Kada Chinmam Premna Ritkatayospura. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O give of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplift the fairy fallen. Please do not ever leave me. Please become manifest Mahatma throat, accompany my pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Janmadyasya Yatonvayaditaratas Charte Swabhigna Swara, Tene Brahma Hidaya Dikavaye Muyanti Yatsuraya, Tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatra kisargo mrisha. Damna swena sada nirastakukam satyam param dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, O Son of Vasudeva, O pervading personality of Godhead, offer my respectful obeisance unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primal cause of all causes of creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by a delusive representation of water seen in fire, land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Prayanalparisha sabhya kalavasmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya upadrita. O learned one, in this iron age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. Narayanam namaskritya narachaivam narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udirayat. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the most human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Savai pumsa paro dharmo yato bhakti radokshajay ahoitukiya pratihata yayatma suprasiddhati. The supreme occupation dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service will be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoge Prayojita Janatiyaya Suvairagyam Jnanam Chayat Ahurtikam. By rendering devotional service under the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Padanti tattva vidas tattvam yat gnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavaniti sabhyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth, call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. Shru Shru Shro Sharadanasya Vasudeva Kata Ruchi Syan Mahatsevaya Vipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat. O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely free from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Shranvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyantastoya Bhadrani Vidunati Suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is Paramatma, Supersoul in everyone's heart, and a benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtues when properly heard and chanted. Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatu Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in the class of the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service under the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are continuing Srimad Bhagavatam based on the teachings of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So let us hear some feedback from the devotees. You can unmute or you can please share on the chat what you took home from last week's verses 14 to 25, what you learned, what you found interesting, and something that really went to heart. Srimad Acharya says, real welfare is connecting others to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The foundation of all cultures is the Vedas. Wonderful point. Yes, the real welfare is really connecting others to Krishna, and we should not forget connecting ourselves. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, perfect ourselves first and then help others. So the more we are convinced of that, and we're going to be covering that in today's verses, the more we will be happy, blissful, peaceful, and satisfied. Nalini Kanta Prabhu says, Prabhupada's analogy of the big wheel. Yes, you go up and down. That's the nature of this material world. And we don't want to go up and down, we want to go out. Or we want to take full shelter of the Supreme Lord. Shama says, Hare Krishna, there was originally one Veda, which was divided into 4, correct? Mother Les says, once in a day of Brahma, once every 4.32 billion years, Krishna appears. In other yugas, Vishnu Tattva, an expansion of Krishna or Vishnu appears. This means you don't get the highest knowledge with regard to Krishna, because Krishna personally appears in the 28th cycle. This is incredibly special. And because we get to know all, and the highest knowledge of bhakti, normally we only know of Krishna as the creator and father. In the 28th cycle, we are connected with the wisdom that Krishna also has other relationships, friendships as a parent, as a conjugal lover. Yes, and that is why our birth, even though Kali Yuga is an unfortunate age, our birth in Kali Yuga at this point in time is extremely glorious. In fact, the sages describe even in Satya Yuga and Tetra Yuga, they would do anything to take birth after Krishna appears. Because, and not only after Krishna appears, even after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates have given us the highest knowledge that one can get. Mother Uttarani Devidasi says, selflessness, work for the benefit of others. And we're going to be expanding on that benefit of working for the benefit of others in today's lesson. Hemavati says, Brahma had Vedas like gems in a box, and Srila Vyasadeva divided it for us to understand. Yes. He gave us the right assortments of gems for us to understand. Shama says, according to Manu Samhita, there are a total of 40 samskaras, 16 are major. And of all the major ones, the first one, Abhadan Samskar, is extremely important for Grihastas. Because if you start it right, you can end it right. If you start it wrong, then all the issues accumulate. So it becomes very difficult. Rasaraj Prabhu says, we are fortunate to take birth in Kali Yuga. Definitely. Sukadeva Goswami Prabhu says, a great sage, Vyasadeva, could see past, present, and future. Therefore, he made the necessary arrangements in this age of Kali, which is full of darkness. Yes. Shamananda Prabhu says, we are eternally indebted to Srila Vyasadeva and Srila Prabhupada for giving us knowledge of the absolute truth. Look forward to hearing the verses to follow in associated devotees on how Srimad Bhagavatam was manifested. We all are eager to hear the appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam coming in the next chapters. Shama says, great sage like Vyasadeva can see past, present, and future. Yes, they are called Trikala Gyan. And just in regards to the point that Srila Prabhupada, they asked Srila Prabhupada, do you know everything? Srila Prabhupada said, as much as Krishna wants me to know. So even though Prabhupada could see certain things, but it's ultimately whatever Krishna wants Prabhupada to see. Hemavati, what inspires me is the compassion of the sage Srila Vyasadeva and Srila Prabhupada concerned about our welfare of the fallen souls to deliver us. Yes, they were extremely compassionate. I was reading, I posted how Srila Prabhupada went to the West and he fasted for 8 days on the journey because he had seasickness. He was ill and he couldn't eat anything. So Prabhupada really went through so much austerity for us. All right. Bafana Prabhu says, loved all the topics and its content. Complete manual for life was awesome to see that the name Hari is chanted all around the world. I love Srila Vyasadeva. It just feels like everything is Krishna. Example, Vyasadeva, literacy is Krishna. Suta's realization, purport of Srila Prabhupada all are strongly similitude or an reenactment of Krishna. My whole week was ecstatic. I am glad. Yes. By associating with Krishna in all these forms, we will have an ecstatic week. And week by week, we can have an ecstatic week. Rasara Prabhu's chronological order of the 4 millenniums and the overlap. Good. Anyone else?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Sorry,
Krishna.
I don't know how to type, but the most satisfying point that was for me was the clarification that women are not less intelligent. For many a year, I struggled with that. I was fighting with everyone that was sitting on the Vyasasana. I was fighting with myself to wonder why was this being said. But the clarification that you gave was excellent. And now I feel so satisfied that, we are not less intelligent. It is the manner in which you explained it. I'm so pleased with the answer.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
So much. Hare Krishna.
Yes. You'll see Srila Prabhupada mentions this in his Bhaktivinoda purports in different sections. For example, you'll see Srila Prabhupada mentions this point in Bhagavad Gita. And Prabhupada mentions it, but he doesn't give the full context or the details, which is what we should be explaining to people when they read that, because otherwise they will misunderstand. And in fact, if you read that statement that we covered from Prabhupada's purport, it includes everyone, practically everyone in Kali Yuga that does not perform the Garbhadan samskars and gets initiation from the spiritual master, Brahman initiation. They are sons of the twice, they are friends of the twice born, Dvija Bandhus, and they fall in the category of less intelligent, in the sense that they don't have the capacity to understand the Vedas. And I extend a little further, even in myself, I don't know Sanskrit. Right? What about even Sanskrit? Even languages becomes very difficult, challenging. Even English and Afrikaans was such challenging journey for me to learn. D in English and E in Afrikaans. So if we're to use that as less intelligent, well, then I am less intelligent. But the beauty is Srila Prabhupada is giving us the intelligence, and we can now use Prabhupada's intelligence, Krishna's intelligence, Arjuna's intelligence, Srila Vyasadev's intelligence, Narad Muni's intelligence, collectively all the Vaishnav's intelligence, and we can become Susmeras. So yes, I'm glad that that point was clarified. Okay, thank you very much. Let us proceed. So we are covering chapter 4, appearance of Shri Narad. We covered the first 13 verses where Shonaka Rishi further presents other questions. After glorifying Sutta Goswami, he then presents further questions regarding Bhagavatam, regarding Srila Vyasadeva, how he compiled Bhagavatam, regarding Sukadeva Goswami, who spoke Bhagavatam, and Maharaj Parikshit, who heard Bhagavatam. Then we covered last week the second part, verses 14 to 25, where we heard how Srila Vyasadeva, the life of Vyasadeva, the scene where Vyasadeva starts to divide the Vedas and seeing the future of the state of Kali Yuga and souls that could be unfortunately plagued by the unfortunate qualities in Kali Yuga. Srila Vyasadeva, out of his compassion, decided to divide the Vedas and present the Vedas in such a way that practically all parts of the society can benefit, especially through the Mahabharata. And now we're going to be covering 26 to 33, where we're going to hear how Srila Vyasadeva's experience was after he had given or divided the Vedas and given the Mahabharata. And in these verses, we're going to really glean and learn about the ideal solution that we all should embrace. So understanding our incompleteness. I would like to start off with a question, and you can type in the chat or unmute and share. The question is, what problems does everyone in this world, either problems, challenges, or issues, do conditioned souls experience in this world? What problems or challenges or issues are conditioned souls experiencing in this world? You can either type or you can unmute. Birth, death, old age, disease, fear. Any other problems? Is that it? Identifying with the body, anxiety. How about wanting more? Don't have money, being separated from Krishna. How about the cold weather? Vimal? Natural disasters, psychological imbalances, yes. Eternal spirit soul trapped in the temporary body, Maya, lack of transcendental knowledge, threefold miseries, birth, death, and old age, unqualified politicians, Corona. Okay, so good. We have a good idea of the challenges that plague. Could be family problems, emotional problems, climate change, so many issues. We may even have our own personal issues, challenges, with work, with the boss, etc. So we all have different challenges. Now, we try to implement a solution. So we have a challenge, and this challenge is causing us frustration, lamentation, unhappiness, dissatisfaction, anxiety, pain, fear, and we implement a solution. In most cases, if we implement a relative solution, that solution gives birth to other problems. Rob gives an example. We had issues with the transport. People had to go horse and cart or on foot. Therefore, they created a vehicle. But with the vehicle comes so many other problems: fumes, pollution, tires, accidents, etc. So we get other problems that come out from our original solution. And we then still experience incompleteness in the form of frustration, lamentation, unhappiness, dissatisfaction, anxiety, fear, and pain. And this cycle continues. We will always be incomplete and experience all different forms of incompleteness if we keep implementing a relative solution. But if this cycle of having problems, trying to find a solution, having more problems, still experiencing incompleteness, if this cycle of unfortunate pain, lamentation, unhappiness, dissatisfaction, anxiety, fear, and pain leads us to the absolute solution, then that becomes a blessing. So whenever we have difficulties, and those difficulties, the tragic events lead us, brings us closer to the Bhagavatam, to Krishna, to chanting Hare Krishna, to surrendering, we should consider that to be a blessing. Just like our past karma brought us to Kali Yuga, unfortunate age. But guess what? It's a blessing. It's a blessing. So that way we can see that all challenges, difficulties can be transformed into a blessing. And every event that's apparently unfortunate, that's bitter, can help us to become a blessing, to become better by embracing the absolute solution which Srimad Bhagavatam is going to share with us. And if we embrace this absolute solution, then we can achieve completeness and be perfectly happy. And we're going to learn this through Srila Vyasadev's own life. Through the life of Srila Vyasadeva, there are going to be many levels of lessons. And we're going to be covering those different levels, which Srila Prabhupada also in his purport will elaborate and reveal those different levels. So there's obviously the main theme of Srila Vyasadev's life, but then underlining there's a philosophical theme that may have different lessons on different levels that we can learn. So verse 26, 1-4-26, the previous verse 25, it was, Sudha Goswami said, out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata, women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. Evam pravrittasya sada bhutanam shreyasi dvija sarvatmake napi yada natusyat hridayam tatam. O twice born brahmanas, still his mind was not satisfied, although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of all people. So his desire was to compile or to divide the Vedas and give the Mahabharata so that everyone in the universe practically on the planet Earth could achieve the ultimate goal of life. So it was a glorious desire, and he successfully achieved that, but he was not satisfied. So here we're going to be hearing about understanding the real problem. Prabhupada in the purport says, Srila Vyasadeva was not satisfied with himself. Although he had prepared literatures of Vedic value for the all-around welfare of the general mass of people, it was expected that he would be satisfied by all such activities, but ultimately he was not satisfied. Srila Vyasadeva is the literary incarnation of Sri Krishna. So he's no ordinary person. He is an extraordinary, great personality, empowered representative of the Supreme Lord. And Srila Vyasadeva saw a problem and expertly implemented a selfless solution, yet he was not satisfied. So a literary incarnation of God is experiencing a problem. If a literary incarnation of God can experience a problem, then for us to experience problems is not a problem at all. And the real problem is not we experiencing problems, because if a literary incarnation, if a Shakti Vesh empowered incarnation of God can experience problem, we insignificant living entities experience problems is definitely not a problem. We should see problems as feedback or mercy. And the main problem is we don't see challenges or problems that we face as feedback. Feedback meaning that something's happening which I don't want. And we should be inquiring, or we should be seeing the problem as feedback that I'm getting so that I can improve. And this is what we're going to be sharing. If one is more advanced, then one can see problems as the mercy of the Lord. That is a very advanced level. The more we become Krishna conscious, the more we will be able to see that everything that happens in our life is Krishna's mercy. But at least, while progressing, even if we cannot see the challenges and difficulties in our life as Krishna's mercy, at least see it as feedback that we're getting, which means something's not right. So Srila Vyasadeva is experiencing that feedback. He, did such a magnificent service, practically serves humanity selflessly, the greatest welfare work of giving knowledge. And yet, after giving everything in terms of the Vedas and Mahabharata, he felt a lack. Something's wrong. So he's experiencing a problem. Text 27. Nati prasidat dridaya saras vat yastate suchau vitarkayan viviktasta idam chova chadarmavit. Thus the sage, being dissatisfied at heart, at once began to reflect, because he knew the essence of religion, and he said within himself. So now we're going to be hearing the first step in problem solving. And Srila Prabhupada gives a three-line purport. And this three-line purport, every single line of this purport is amazing. Prabhupada starts off saying, the sage began to search out the cause of not being satisfied at heart. So he received feedback and he started to search out, why am I experiencing this unfortunate situation? So we want to be introspective. We want to reflect. We want to contemplate. This is the first step. We're all going to experience problems. It's given. But we should see problems as feedback, and we should start becoming introspective, reflect, and contemplate. Not react, blame, and complain. That's the wrong way to address, or at least start addressing a problem. If you react, blame, and complain, we're going to be covering that in the future chapters in relation to Maharaj Parikshit's situation. And we will share what happens then. For now, we want to learn how to address any situation that we experience. We want to be introspective, reflect, and contemplate. That means we should not be asking, or we should not be focusing on what's happening. We should be initially trying to focus, why is this happening to me? What is the cause? What have I done that is bringing this upon me? There must be something. Krishna is giving us a sign. Whenever we experience any pain, pain is Krishna's way to tell us, to give us feedback, something's wrong. Consider, if I put my hand in fire, immediately I will feel pain when my hand starts to burn. That is very healthy. Because imagine if that was not the case. Then I put my hand in fire and I, let's say I'm busy, inattentive and doing something, my hand goes in fire and I don't experience any pain. When I turn around, my hand will be, the flesh will be completely burnt and I will just see bones. So in order to protect my hand as a protective mechanism, the Lord has made it such a way that I can feel pain. So immediately when I feel pain, I reflect, I become introspective, I see, I'm burning, I pull my hand away. So that's how the Lord has arranged this mechanism. So Vyasadeva immediately started to become introspective. Then Srila Prabhupada says, second sentence. Right, before we get to the second sentence, we'll cover that because I'm going to cover each sentence in each section one at a time. So perfection is never attained until one is satisfied at heart. This satisfaction of heart has to be searched out beyond matter. So in regards to problems, we should see problems as an opportunity to surrender to the Lord. And that means the Lord will always be with us. So especially for those who are sincerely trying to develop a relation with the Lord, we are not alone. The Lord's always there. Even in Srila Vyasadeva's case, we're going to hear how he's not alone in dealing with the problems. So I'm going to show a small clip that illustrates how the Lord will always do what is best for his devotees.
Bhagavantuda.
Vande Jagadgurum, Vande Krishnan.
Sahadeva of the 5 brothers is very good astrologer. So everybody used to go and consult him for some good dates and how to start a program or anything like that. So when Duryodhana, he approached Sahadeva and asked, give me the best time when we want to start the Kurukshetra Yudra so that I will become victorious in the battle. So Sahadeva explained to him that next day of Amavasya is a good day for you to start the battle, you will become victorious. So when he went back, the Pandavas and Lord Krishna asked him, why did you reveal to him the best day, he will become victorious? And Sahadeva said, no, it is my duty. When somebody had engaged me as a Kshatriya, when somebody has come forward and asked me for a favor, I have to do my duty. This is my dharma. So in the process of executing my dharma, I don't have any problem of even sacrificing my life. I'm not bothered of victory or loss. Like that he was explaining. Now Lord Krishna, he had promised that Pandavas will win. Now how, if the same Muhurta happens, Kauravas will win. Now what to do, what to do? Now Krishna, he did one thing. On the day before Amavasya, he started engaging in Amavasya rituals. On Amavasya, there will be certain pujas which has to be done. So Krishna started doing one day before Amavasya itself the rituals. When Krishna was doing all the rituals, there were sun and moon in the sky. They came to the Lord and asked him, oh, my dear Lord, Amavasya is supposed to be tomorrow. Why are you doing the rituals today itself? Then Krishna started explaining, see, where there is earth, where there is sun, where there is moon, that day is Amavasya. Since all 3 of you are here today, today is Amavasya. So then he said, because today is Amavasya, all 3 of you are here, I am doing the rituals today itself. When Duryodhana got to know that Krishna is doing Amavasya today, then he said, let me do fight tomorrow. And he started on a wrong day and it ended in a wrong day. You cannot cheat the Lord. If Lord had desired that he had to protect you, he will protect you in all means and ways. Because that is the assurance what he had given in Bhagavad Gita. Kaunteya pratijanehi ame bhakta pranashyati. My devotee will never perish. I am personally there to take care of them. Because Lord is bound by the devotion. Lord is bound by their love and affection. And Pandavas were the best devotees. Their entire lifetime, they were always with problems. But they never ever questioned the Lord, why me? When we engage in bhakti, one small problem comes, we say 100 times, why me? When so many else are there, why me only has to be selected for this? But Pandavas never derided the Lord. They always accepted everything as Lord's mercy.
Vande Jagadgurum, Vande Krishnan.
So we have to accept that there will be problems, but if we are on the path of bhakti, the Lord will always make sure that we'll either learn from that or he will always protect us. Nothing happens for no reason. Then Prabhupada defines perfection. But Prabhupada says, perfection is never attained until one is satisfied at heart. And this satisfaction of heart has to be searched out beyond matter. So Prabhupada gives a beautiful perspective. We all have different ideas or goals in terms of what it means to be perfect. And people strive for different levels of perfection, different ideals and different goals. In Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna says, for example, that you can never achieve happiness without peace. And happiness is not the ultimate goal. Bliss, bliss is further than happiness. But no matter what other stages there are, ultimately Prabhupada is saying satisfaction of heart is the epitome of perfection. So if we don't have 100% satisfaction in our heart, it means we have not achieved perfection. That's how we should measure. We may find that in the material world, we acquire things and we're never satisfied. We want more, we want this, or we desire that. That means there is no satisfaction. I have not achieved perfection. So that's a beautiful way to understand whether I have achieved perfection, is if my heart is satisfied. We need 100% guaranteed satisfaction. And this satisfaction endures. It's not temporary. In spiritual life, we get full satisfaction, and the devotee desires even more satisfaction. So that satisfaction becomes unsatiated to get more satisfaction and continues his relationship with the Supreme Lord. But he is satisfied. Prabhupada then says this satisfaction of the heart has to be searched out beyond matter. That means no material solution, no amount of material education, no amount of material facilities can bring about this satisfaction. No matter what you do in this material world within the time, within the purview of this universe, anywhere within this creation of this material universe or universes, there is no solution that can give you this satisfaction of heart. Where is the solution? We're going to be hearing where that solution is, but it's definitely not in this material world, and it's definitely not in anything, any permutation of the material elements, the facilities, the energies within this material creation. It's beyond matter. Text 28 and 29. Drita Vratena Himaya Chandamsi Guruvo Gnaya Manita Nirvyak Vyalikena Grihitam Chanusasam Sanam Bharata Vyapad Deshena Yamna Yartas Chap Pradarshita Drishteyatra Dharmadi Stri Sudra Bir Apyutam. I have, under strict disciplinary vows, unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual masters, and the altar of sacrifice. I have also abided by the rulings and have shown the import of the cyclic succession through explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women, Sudras, and others, friend of the twice born, can see the path of religion. Prabhupada shares in terms of the glory of Mahabharata. Srila Vyasadeva took the Vedas and specifically give us the Mahabharata so that all orders of all people in different orders of social society, in social world, they could be benefited. So whether one is a Sudra, whether one is a woman, a friend of a twice born, doesn't matter what position one is in, by hearing the Mahabharata, one can get all the understandings of the Vedas. So Prabhupada says no one can understand the import of the Vedas without having undergone a strict disciplinary vow and disciplic succession. The Vedas, spiritual master, and the sacrificial fire must be worshipped by the desiring candidate. All these intricacies of the Vedic knowledge are systematically presented in the Mahabharata for the understanding of the women class, the labor class, and the unqualified members of the Brahmana, Kshatriya, or the Vaishya families. In this age, the Mahabharata is more essential than the original Vedas. So we can see that for anyone who had wanted to understand the Vedas, there were very strict rules and regulations that had to guide that disciple to become disciplined. And not everyone was qualified. Those that had the aptitude, those that had the intellectual capacity, those that had the ability to be austere, to renounce this world, to stay in the forest, they were qualified. The rest of the population, no. And Srila Vyasadeva then gave the Mahabharata in such a way that by going through the Mahabharata, we would get all the teachings of the Vedas. And we know that the essence of the Vedas is in the middle of the Mahabharata. So in this way, no one would be deprived of the knowledge that is contained in the Vedas. And that is why Srila Prabhupada says in Kali Yuga, Mahabharata is actually more essential than the original Vedas. Why? Because it's more accessible to everyone. And in the way that Mahabharata, in terms of a story, right? There's so many wonderful, relatable stories where, for example, there's a battle, there's feud, there's conspiracy, there's a love story. So many aspects are there in the Mahabharata, and therefore it's very entertaining, at the same time very instructive. Now, Srila Vyasadeva, in these verses, he's introspective, he's thinking, he's contemplating, and he's thinking that, I'm so expert in all these different facets, yet I'm experiencing this dissatisfaction. So he's disturbed about this. And from this, we can get a very important lesson, that even though Srila Vyasadeva was empowered, he's an empowered representative of Supreme Lord, and he's most learned, he's skilled and expert, he selflessly served humanity, he was living in an ideal environment, underwent strict disciplinary vows, he was unpretentious in his worship, he abided by all the rules and regulations, he successfully completed the Mahabharata, and he had purity of purpose, yet he still experienced incompleteness. He still experienced dissatisfaction. So no matter how expert you are, how skilled you may be, no matter how much you serve humanity, no matter how beautiful the environment can be, even if you follow all the rules and regulations, even though you may be sincere in your endeavors, you may even achieve great outcomes. The purpose, you have clear intention and purity of purpose. If you don't have the right solution, you basically will have a problem. So there's only one solution to solve all the problems of life. If you don't apply this solution that we're going to hear about, then no matter what your ability, talents, environment, situation, expertise, all that becomes irrelevant. And this is what's been taught in these verses by Srila Vyasadeva, that you could be as expert in a beautiful environment, no matter what your circumstances, or how glorious and how perfect your circumstances, or even the solutions that you create to solve your problems. If you don't follow the ideal solution, it'll basically mean you are implicated in another problem. Text 30. Tatapi Bhattame Dayo Ye Atma Chaitavat He Ye Atma Chaivat Mana Vibhu Asampana Iva Bhati Brahma Varchasya Sattama. I'm feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. So this is the conclusion that Srila Vyasadeva is coming to, that I'm practically fully equipped, yet something's not right. Prabhupada in the purport tells us why this dissatisfaction that Srila Vyasadeva was experiencing. Undoubtedly, Srila Vyasadeva was complete in all the details of Vedic achievements. Purification of the living being submerged in matter is made possible by the prescribed activities of the Vedas. But the ultimate achievement is different. So Prabhupada is sharing that the Vedas is there for us to become purified. The rules, regulations are there for us to become purified, but the goal is not to be purified. The ultimate achievement is different from purification. Purification is part of the journey, not the end. Unless it is attained, unless this ultimate goal is achieved, is attained, the living being, even though fully equipped, cannot be situated in the transcendently normal stage. Srila Vyasadeva appeared to have lost the clue and therefore felt this satisfaction. So we may have different problems and we try to resolve the problems. All that's going to happen is we may get another problem, and then we'll try to resolve that problem and we'll get another problem. And this way, our cycle of birth and death continues with problems. Why? Because just as Srila Vyasadeva, we have lost the clue. And what's the clue? The clue is that unless we are not transcendentally normally situated, we will always experience this satisfaction. So what is the transcendentally normal stage? We already heard about this, and it's going to be repeated again through many pastimes. And here we're going to be hearing about that transcendently normal stage through the life of Srila Vyasadeva. So in terms of our journey of problem solving, we said that having problems is not the problem. We should see problems as feedback or as mercy of the Lord. As soon as we have a problem, we should start becoming introspective. That means when I'm aware that I have a problem, do not react, reflect, and then consider the abilities and the outcomes, your abilities and outcomes. What did you do? Right? What was the outcome? So you begin to analyze, just like Srila Vyasadeva is analyzing. Then 31. Kimva Bhagavata Dharma na prayena nirupita priya paramhamsam ta eva yachuta priya. This may be because I did not specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to the perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. So Srila Vyasadeva was introspective. He analyzed what he did, what was the result, and now he comes to the conclusion that I think it may be, okay, Prabhupada used the word may, because there may be other possibilities, and it may not be this possibility. So if it's not this possibility, we can always review. But it may be that I did not specifically point out devotional service of the Lord. And this is why, even though I gave the whole Mahabharata and all the Vedics, the Vedas in its different divisions, I am feeling the lack. And if the author is feeling the lack, no doubt everybody else who's following the instructions of the author, Srila Vyasadeva, will also feel the lack. Prabhupada in the purport talks about Srila Vyasadeva's realization. Prabhupada says that this satisfaction, which was being felt by Srila Vyasadeva, is expressed herein in his own words. This was felt for the normal condition of the living being in the devotional service of the Lord. Unless one is fixed in the devotional condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied. It's an amazing statement by Srila Prabhupada. Unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied. This defect was felt by him when Narad Muni, his spiritual master, reached him. It is described as follows. So Srila Vyasadeva got an inclination, the super soul, revealed to Srila Vyasadeva. And as we mentioned, the Lord is always there. If one is sincere to understand why something is happening, why you're experiencing some form of incompleteness, then the Lord is happy to share. If one is happy to hear the Lord from within. Srila Vyasadeva got this message. And Prabhupada is, giving us the clarity. So even if you can't hear the super soul, well, here's it in black and white. That unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can be fully satisfied. So all our problems are really ramifications of this condition where we are not fixed in the service of the Lord. If we become fixed in the service of the Lord, then we begin to solve all our problems that we have. Just like Prabhupada would say that the four main problems is birth, death, disease, and old age. And in between, it's all different permutation. But the main problems are birth, death, disease, and old age. We could take that a little further. The main problem is we've left the service of Krishna. We forgot the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because we have turned away from the Supreme Lord and we have forgotten the Supreme Lord, then we get birth, disease, and old age and all other problems. So therefore, if we simply try to adopt the solution of reestablishing our relationship and our service with the Lord, then we will become fully satisfied and all other problems will become mitigated. So we become aware of the problem, we reflect, we look at the outcome and the abilities that, and what we did, and then we look at possible reasons that we may get that will lead us to what solutions we need to embrace. Vyasadeva got an inclination of what the problem was, and now Srila Vyasadeva is appearing for him to validate. So there is a validation process that I think it's because of this. No problem. I can validate with Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So when I validate and then I accept that, yes, I definitely made this mistake. I accept I made this mistake. And I'm regretful that I made this mistake. And then I can rectify my actions. So we can apply this process in terms of problem solving in any situation, but ultimately we want to apply it so that all our problems are solved. And that means the ultimate solution, the only solution that exists for every living being is to be situated, transcendently situated in the normal condition of devotional service. And we heard this already when the sages asked Sutta Goswami, please, from all the Vedas, what is the essence of all the Vedic instructions? Please tell us what is the ultimate goal, occupation and teachings of the Vedas. And in 126, Sudha Goswami made it very clear, Savai pumsa paro dharmo yatho bhakti radokshaje ahoitukiya pratyata yatma suprasiddhati. So the same point is made here now, and we can see through the pastime of Srila Vyasadeva. The supreme occupation of Dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated, uninterrupted, completely satisfy the self. So the goal is to be situated in devotional service, loving devotional service. And what is the quality and criteria of that loving devotional service? It must be ahituki, unmotivated, causeless, and apriyatiyata, uninterrupted. And this will completely satisfy the heart of the living entity. Nothing else. No amount of technology, no amount of material advancement, no amount of wealth, no amount of relationships, nothing in this material world will completely satisfy the self, but for pure devotional service. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada doesn't just say this is true for the living entity. Srila Prabhupada says that this is true even for the Lord. So even the Lord cannot do without this service, this link, this bond between devotee and the Supreme Lord. So the Lord is also desiring this relationship. The living entity is desiring it and want it. The Lord is also desiring and want it. And both need that relationship. When both have that relationship, then both are satisfied. Very, very powerful. We see this example of how the devotee and the Lord both want service in the pastime of Gadadhar Pandit, who was one of the associates of the Panchatattva. He was staying with Srila Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri. And Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu was very expert at reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, especially to his worshipful deity, Tota Gopinath. It is described that every day he would recite Srimad Bhagavatam to Tota Gopinath, and with tears, in fact, reciting to Tota Gopinath and to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was there hearing, listening the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam in melodious tunes. And tears would flow from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's eyes, from Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu's eyes, and practically submerge the Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left this world, and the way he left this world in different ways. One of the ways was he entered into the temple of Tota Gopinath and went into the deity, near the knee of the deity. The Lord merged into the deity. And when you go see this deity, you see like a golden thread on the knee of the deity. Now this deity was standing, like all deities of Radha and Krishna, they stand. Krishna with his Tribhanga, three-bending form, playing his flute. And Gadadhar Pandit was very, very old, elderly. And when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left, in great separation, Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu was burning. His heart was burning in great separation. And he was becoming he was becoming more and more aged. And at one point, he spoke to his deity, to the Gopinath, saying that, my Lord, now I'm very old. I can barely garland you and worship you, and I will not be able to continue my service to your lotus feet. Please forgive me. And Gadadhar Pandit was lamenting that he will not be able to continue the service to his deities, his deity. That night, he could not sleep, thinking that the next day he would not be able to render service. But it so happened that when days came the next day, they saw that the Lord had personally sat down to accept the worship of Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu. So now he could sit down and worship the Lord very comfortably. So here we see this is the only deity practically in creation that is sitting in the lotus position. You can see beautifully how the Lord sat down. So the deity was standing, and now the deity sat down to accept the service of Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu. And Gadadhar Pandit Prabhu was so happy that the Lord had sat down so that he could continue service. So here we see the devotee wanting to continue his service, and the deity happy to receive that service and want to continue receiving that service to such a degree that the deity is happy to sit down and manifest in this form to accept the service. So very wonderful relationship of service. I'm going to now play another video clip that reveals also how the Lord is willing to go to any extent to accept service and please the devotee of the Lord. So here we're going to hear about the life of Sati Sakubai. She was a great devotee of Lord Pandurangam Vitala, and we're going to try to get a glimpse of what the Lord will do to maintain this service relationship that Prabhupada is talking about. That unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living entity can be fully satisfied. And once that relationship is established, nothing can break that relationship. The Lord will do whatever it takes to maintain that relationship, and the devotee will do whatever it takes to maintain this service relationship.
There was one great devotee of Lord Vittala by name Sakkubai. So there lived a poor couple in Pandharpur. Even though they are poor at material terms, but they are very rich in their hearts, ardent devotees of Lord Vittala. So they used to engage in his service regularly, and they used to pray to the Lord to have a child who will enhance their bhakti. And they wanted their child to be a great devotee. So she used to assist her mother in daily serving the Lord. So they used to go have darshan of the Lord. So she used to prepare the thali, in which they used to take sandalwood paste, some flowers, some sweets for Naivedya, some coconut. In that way she used to prepare. She used to carry that plate along with her mother. She, in the house also, when they were cooking, she used to help the mother, and she used to sing bhajans of Lord. So in that same town, near river Krishna river, that area near Pandharpur, is a place called Karavirapura. There lived one Pandita who was very much rich, well versed in Vedas, Puranas, but very much miserly person. So because of his attitude of not donating even a single rupee to anyone, so he doesn't even wash his hand, so that crows will come and eat away one grain if it falls away from his hand. So that's why people used to call him Krupana Raya, the best of the misers. And he had a wife who was very torturous, Maya personified. Her name is called Gayali Bai. So she used to torture husband also, not only outside people, she used to torture even husband. And they have one son, fit for nothing, Udu Raya. He is just a puppet. So even though the father trained him with all the Vidya Buddhi, but he also trained him of his characters also. That even same miserliness, same stubbornness. So when the boy became older, they were looking for a girl. So nobody was coming to give a girl to them. Because if their name is known, nobody will give daughter to them. So accidentally one day he came to Pandharpur. So he came to the house of this Brahmana, where he was greeted by Sakkubai. He was treated very nicely, made him sit, washed his feet, gave him water, then fed him something, whatever they could have. So he was very much satisfied by her sattvic nature. Then he thought she's the best girl, and since they are coming from a lower family, very poor family, so then he offered that I will marry your daughter to my son. And the parents were also very much elated. They didn't know that they thought he's a rich man, but never know of their personal life. So he thought, we are staying in poverty. We thought this is the best opportunity. Our girl can lead a very good life. So the boy's family came, and this poor Brahmana was able to accumulate some money so that he could do the marriage nicely. Marriage happened for 5 days. The moment she came back to the house, it became a torturous life for her. She has to feed the cattle, she has to wash the vessels, she has to cook, she has to go fetch water from the river. After doing all these things, still they are not satisfied. The mother-in-law used to come and scold her for every small mistakes, insignificant mistakes also she used to treat her. But nothing can be done. This girl was very silent. She never complained anything. She was doing her duty. Her only solace was she used to pray to Vittala whole day while she was doing service. She used to chant the holy name of Vittala and she used to sing the bhajans of Vittala, and mother-in-law doesn't like that. As soon as she hears Vittala's name, she goes crazy. But she doesn't hear to that all these things. Her only solace was to the Lord Vittala, and she used to pray to him to give his darshan. That's what she is asking. And she used to pray, make them devotees. So one day, the Sakkubai along with her friend went to fetch water from the river. So when they went to the river, there they saw some devotees going towards Pandharpur. So she asked them, where are you going? We are all going to Pandharpur to have darshan of the Lord. Then the bhakti in her awakened. She said, I'm also going to come with you. She left her bindi there and she started going away. The friend was asking, come back. Your mother-in-law will not spare you. Come back. She said, I'm not bothered. I am bothered of Panduranga and I'll go away. So immediately the neighbor came and updated the house that your daughter is going away with devotees to Pandharpur. They all ran away, caught hold of her, dragged her to the house, tied her up to a pole, and started scolding her, beating her, all these things on her. But the Sakkubai, she was only thinking of Panduranga, give me an opportunity to have your darshan. So she was praying. Midnight fell, they all slept off. Suddenly, Lord Krishna could not tolerate Then Sakkubai left. Then she started reaching the devotees, and they were all very much thrilled by seeing the divine effulgence coming out of her body. They said, you are not an ordinary woman. You are such a great devotee. And they started offering prayers. Because of you, we will be having darshan of Lord Pandharpur. And they were all very much pleased by her bhakti, and they started glorifying by her bhakti. When all the devotees were glorifying her bhakti, then even Lord Vittala along with Rukmini comes there to have darshan of all these activities, what is happening. And they all glorify Lord Vittala, and they fall at the feet of Lord Vittala, and they offer their prayers. And they all say, because of you, we had darshan of Vittala here itself. Then Lord was doing all the household activities what Sakkubai was doing. So he was pounding the grains, he was going, bringing food for the cattle, bringing water, he was cooking for them. What the fortunate situation was, they were all eating what the food is cooked by the Lord. So slowly, by eating the food cooked by the Lord, they are all becoming Sattva-guna. They were all forgetting that envious nature, all these things and all. They are all becoming very silent and simple people. So in the meantime, Sakkubai went and had darshan of the Lord there, and she was very much happy, for heart's content. For many days she was having darshan of the Lord. Finally she said, enough of this life. I just want to be your devotee and go back home, back to Godhead. And she prayed to the Lord and fell dead there in front of the deity. Then all the local people who, because she died, they went and cremated her. And in the meantime, some people who all saw that Sakkubai was there in front of the deity and she died, said they started going towards the house to inform the in-laws that your daughter-in-law died, and She's been buried here. The cremation has been done. Then Rukmini Devi, she came to a doubt. Now because till Sakubai comes back, Lord had promised I will stay here. Now Sakubai is dead. Now how will Lord come back? Then she requested the devotees in their dream, go bring back the remnants of that devotee, whatever is that burnt ashes in front of Rukmini Devi. So when the ashes were brought in front of Rukmini Devi appeared and touched her hand to that ashes. Immediately Sakubai came back to life. And she explained the whole thing. The lady who had come to liberate you is Lord Vittala. And here you had promised him that till you comes back, Lord will not come back to me. So please go back home and send my Lord back home. I am waiting here without the Lord. What will I do? So immediately Sakubai, feeling the great nature of the Lord had accepted an inferior position to serve her in-laws. And going all the cruel torture, she was thinking all the cruel torture what the Lord will be going through. She immediately ran towards the house. So when they reached the house, when they reached the village, here she saw Lord as Sakubai there carrying water. She immediately went and fell down at the Lord's lotus feet and begged forgiveness for asking him to do all these insignificant activities in the house. And the Lord also blesses her and says, I am very much pleased by your bhakti that I am accepted this inferior position. Then Lord blesses her that very soon your house will be all of devotees and you will be having regular opportunity to visit me, and because of your mercy entire your town will become devotees. So Lord blessed her and vanished. So here we understand the Lord accepting a subordinate position to satisfy his devotees' desires. So Lord is ready at the devotee's command. That's what Uddhava is saying. That position of the Lord gives pain to me. Even though he is the Supreme Lord, he is accepting command from his devotees. This is as it's a humble position Lord is showing, but we are all pained by that humble position.
So there we see how the Lord was eager to and happy to serve his devotee because of that wonderful bond that they had. And the devotee was happy to do whatever it takes to continue glorifying and serving that Lord. So this bond of service, this is really what will satisfy us all. In relation to this aspect of satisfaction of Krishna, Srila Prabhupada in a lecture, London, August 29, 1973, Prabhupada says, from material point of view, what is moral? That is most, I mean to say, abominable point of, just like Yudhishthir Maharaj became very moral. Krishna advised him, just go and tell Dronacharya that your son is dead. Although his son was not dead, because Dronacharya will not die. Unless he hears the news of the death of his son, he'll not die. So he would not believe anyone but Yudhishthir Maharaj is famous, very moral. So Krishna asked him that you go, otherwise he'll not believe anyone. So Yudhishthir Maharaj hesitated. How can I say a lie? How can I say lies? So for this, he had to see hell. He became immoral. Man nimitte kriptan papam punyaya evakalpate. So our standard of morality and immorality is to see whether Krishna is satisfied. If Krishna is satisfied, then it is morality. If Krishna is dissatisfied, then it is immoral. And Krishna's representative also. Therefore it is said, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, Yasya prasadan nagati kutopi. Our morality is to satisfy Krishna or his representative Guru, Yasya prasada. If he's satisfied, then it is moral. If he's not satisfied, then it is immoral. Nagati kutopi. So in regards to satisfaction, Prabhupada said that when we come to our normal transcendental situation of service, pure devotional service, then we will be fully satisfied. Why? Because in that normal situation of service, all we want to do is satisfy Krishna. And in that situation, all the Lord wants to do is satisfy the devotee. And that is why by us satisfying Krishna, we will automatically become satisfied. And in terms of satisfaction of Krishna, Prabhupada takes it even further to say that's how our basis of understanding morality and immorality is also defined. What is immoral, what is moral? We simply try to please Krishna, and if Krishna is satisfied, that's morality. In a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam 286, there it says, a pure devotee of the Lord whose heart has once been cleansed by the process of devotional service never relinquishes the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, for they fully satisfy him as a traveler is satisfied at home after a troubled journey. So this is the relationship of how when a devotee connects again with Krishna in pure devotional service, he becomes fully satisfied, just like a traveler who's gone on a arduous, long journey, difficult journey, and now he returns home. Prabhupada in that lecture told us that satisfying Krishna or satisfying his representative. So now, if we try to serve Srila Prabhupada and try to please Srila Prabhupada, that also will fully satisfy us. And I like to share with you a narration by His Grace Rameshwar Prabhu. Very beautiful in terms of how can we satisfy Srila Prabhupada. So he mentioned Srila Prabhupada came for one visit to New Dwarka starting in March 1973. We had just completed the first Christmas book marathon, distribution marathon in 1972. So this was a very exciting time. I was a Sankirtan leader at that time. Every day I would compile a report on how many books were distributed devotee by devotee. At night, I would bring that report over to Srila Prabhupada's quarters. I'd wait at the bottom of the stairs and either Brahmananda or Shrutakirti would come down around 9:30 p.m. to collect it from me as they were going to read it to Prabhupada, either that night or the next day during his massage. I would go back every day at around 11 in the morning to meet them at the stairs and find out what Prabhupada had to say, because we lived for any instruction, any word, any encouragement. We saw Srila Prabhupada as giving his whole life to writing these books, and we saw ourselves as giving our whole lives to distributing these books. So there was a phenomenal relationship going on with the Sankirtan devotees and Prabhupada at that time. One day, Shrutakirti came down and told me they had read it to Srila Prabhupada the night before. And as he was lying in his bed, he was rolling from side to side in ecstasy, exhibiting ecstatic symptoms. Shrutakirti said, Prabhupada uttered the words, quote, "We will smash all these bogus incarnations," unquote. So Prabhupada went into ecstasy just by hearing the book distribution scores of the devotees. Finally, on March 20th, 1973, after his massage, Prabhupada hand wrote a note to the Sankirtan devotees. My dear boys and girls, you are all working so hard, broadcast the glories of Lord Krishna's lotus feet. Because of that, you have pleased my Guru Maharaj so much that he will bestow his mercy upon you 1,000 times more than me. And that is my satisfaction. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, unquote. And then he wrote, NB, note below, everyone must join the Sankirtan party as soon as possible. And we have that note in Prabhupada's handwriting. So how wonderful to please and satisfy Srila Prabhupada by joining the Sankirtan party, by helping Prabhupada spread Krishna consciousness. So we can please Krishna, satisfy Krishna through devotional service. We can satisfy his pure representative and in devotional service. Now, even if one is not able to serve Srila Prabhupada in these capacities, Srila Prabhupada's compassion extends even further. Satisfaction of Gonitai. Srila Prabhupada, in a lecture, Prabhupada actually visited the Baltimore Temple in America, where they have these beautiful Gonitai deities. 1976, 7th of July. And Prabhupada in his lecture, after taking darshan of the beautiful deities, Prabhupada sat on the Vyasasan, and part of his lecture, Prabhupada said, so this benediction is offered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who has very kindly come here, Nitai Gaura. So you take advantage of his mercy. You are very fortunate that Nitai Gaur is here. If you simply chant Nitai Gaur and dance, then you'll be happy. There is no difficulty. You are chanting Jai Sachinandan. This simple chanting, Jai Sachinandan Hare Krishna. I am not manufacturing. It is the injunction of Shastra. In this age, simply by chanting and dancing, you get complete spiritual service. So I am very glad that you are taking care of Gonitai so nicely. They are so nicely dressed. So continue these activities. And even if you cannot do anything, simply chant Hare Krishna and Jai Sachinandan, dance. That will make your life perfect. So even if we just embrace this little service, it'll satisfy Shishinitai Gohari, it'll satisfy Gonitai, and it'll perfect our life in that all our other subsidiary trivial problems will be solved. Text 32. Tasyevam kilam atmanam man yamanasya kidyata krishnasya narado vyagad ashramam prag udritam. As mentioned before, Narada reached the cottage of Krishna Dwapayana Vyas on the bank of the Saraswati, just as Vyasadeva was regretting his defects. So Narad Muni appears, and Vyasadeva, realizing his mistake, he was regretting his efforts. So he accepted, he acknowledged that I made a mistake. This is also one of the processes of rectifying any problem. So Narad Muni is going to validate, in the next chapter we're going to hear, Narad Muni is going to validate what Srila Vyasadeva had actually discovered in terms of his efforts. And Srila Vyasadeva, he already is accepting because he's regretting, so he's already accepting. And then he is going to rectify the situation. Prabhupada in the purport says, the vacuum felt by Vyasadeva was not due to his lack of knowledge. Bhagavad Dharma is purely devotional service of the Lord, to which the monas have no access. The monas is not counted amongst the Paramhamsas, the most perfected of the renounced order of life. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of narrations of the transcendental activities of the personality of God. Although Vyasadeva was an empowered divinity, he still felt dissatisfaction because in none of his works were the transcendental activities of the Lord properly explained. The inspiration was infused by Sri Krishna directly in the heart of Srila Vyasadeva, and thus he felt the vacuum as explained above. It is definitely expressed herein that without the transcendental loving service of the Lord, everything is void. But in the transcendental service of the Lord, everything is tangible without any separate attempt at fruit of work or empiric philosophical speculation. So Vyasadeva gave the Vedas and the Mahabharata, but his focus was predominantly in fruitive activities and Gyan. He didn't, even though there are verses that glorify the Supreme Lord, it was secondary, it was not primary. He gave a lot of rituals and a lot of ways where people can enjoy material facility through following the Vedic injunctions. So in that way, he directed them to a situation that will not solve will not present the ultimate solution. And they receive relative solutions and not the absolute solution. And because he did not give the absolute solution, he himself was dissatisfied by the work that he presented. And the Lord revealed this as it's described in the purport here. Prabhupada says that the inspiration was infused by Shri Krishna. He felt this dissatisfaction and he understood his mistake. So in this way, the Lord can guide us internally to understand our mistake, and then through Guru Sadhu Shastra, we can get guidance in terms of clarification, and then we can rectify. But through this pastime of Srila Vyasadeva, we are hearing that ultimately all other relative solutions will lead to dissatisfaction. And the only absolute solution is Parodharma, Bhakti Adokshaja, pure devotional service, being situated in loving service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the absolute solution. Text 33. Tam abhignaya sahasya pratyuta yagatam muni pujayam ashavi divan naradam surapujitam. At the auspicious arrival of Sri Narada, Srila Vyasadeva got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him veneration equal to that given to Brahmaji, the creator. Purport. Srila Prabhupada says, Vidi means Brahma, the first created living being. He is the original student as well as the professor of the Vedas. He learned it from Sri Krishna and taught Narada first. So Narada is the second acharya in the line of the spiritual disciplic succession. He is the representative of Brahma, and therefore he is respected exactly like Brahma, the father of the Vedas, regulations. Similarly, all other successive disciples in the chain are also equally respected as representatives of the original spiritual master. So even though Srila Vyasadeva was despondent, he was dissatisfied, he was having a challenge and a problem, when Narada Muni came, he did not fail to offer respects. He did not fail to observe the etiquette, even though he had a problem. So another lesson we can learn, that we may have challenges and difficulties and problems, but we should never fail in complying and following the Vaishnava etiquette, the culture of etiquette of the Vedic system of Krishna consciousness. In a purport, Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam 3.935 says, Arjuna is found to be similarly bewildered. All such bewilderment of the pure devotees of the Lord is specifically meant for the further advancement in knowledge of the Lord. So here, Srila Vyasadeva also, by the Lord's arrangement, he was, he did not present the glories, sufficient glories of Krishna, of the Supreme Lord, and the Lord allowed him to serve humanity, benefit, at the same time show him the lack, and now give Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, fulfill the desires of those who want to satisfy the material needs, at the same time those who want to solve all their problems once and for all. Bhagavatam is now presented. So the Lord put Srila Vyasadeva in the situation. In another purport, 1.9.16, Prabhupada also says, using the example of the Pandavas, the suffering of the Pandavas were never due to their past deeds. The Lord had to execute the plan of establishing the kingdom of virtue, and therefore his own devotees suffered temporarily in order to establish the conquest of virtue. Bhishmadev was certainly satisfied by seeing the triumph of virtue, and he was glad to see King Yudhishthira on the throne, although he himself fought against him. Even a great fighter like Bhishma could not win the battle of Kurukshetra because the Lord wanted to show that vice cannot conquer virtue, regardless of who tries to execute it. So again, we can see in the case of the Pandavas, the Lord using the Pandavas, putting them in difficulty for a higher cause. And similarly, Vyasadeva is being used to be put into difficulty so that we can get Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a higher cause. That brings us to the end of this chapter, fourth chapter, first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Appearance of Sri Narada Muni. Thank you, Hare Krishna. If there were any shortcomings in the presentation, please forgive me. But if there's any benefit that you derived, that is all due to my Diksha Guru and my Shiksha Gurus, and especially Srila Prabhupada, who went through so much difficulty to give us Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or comments? Anyone else? All okay? Mother Archana Siddhi says, does one has to undergo a strict disciplinary vow and disciplic succession to understand Srimad Bhagavatam? The answer is yes. And one has to go through all the disciplinary vows of disciplic succession and become a Paramhamsa, and only then will you be presented with the Bhagavatam. But Srila Prabhupada, out of his compassion, great compassionate heart, has given us access to Srimad Bhagavatam. So we don't even need to go through that qualification. Prabhupada is our qualification. And therefore, the answer is also no. Now we've got Srila Prabhupada's mercy and compassion, and therefore we simply associate with Srimad Bhagavatam through Bhagavatam and through his Bhaktivedanta purpose. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for imparting this invaluable knowledge to us. Much appreciation. Thank you very much. Shamananda Prabhu says, thanks for the wonderful class, Prabhu. So if something good or bad happens, can we take it as just our karma being burnt off, or also a lesson to be found every time or not? Yes, Shamananda. So both. One is, we should definitely know that our karma is getting burnt. And in that way, because my karma is getting burnt, I'm happy because I got less troubles coming my way. Wonderful. So I'm excited. And to be excited in that situation will take some time, but you'll get plenty karma getting burnt. So you'll have many opportunities to practice. Whenever you get some bad karma or good karma, see, good karma is easy. If someone gets good karma to say, all glories to the Lord, thank you, my Lord, I'm happy, that's easy. The challenge is the bad karma. So if one gets bad karma, then yes, you may react as we said, right? Don't react, become introspective. Think of Srila Vyasadev's pastime. And then, even if you react negatively, later on you'll see the more you become conscious of it, slowly you will cultivate the right attitude to react to negative experiences. So yes, it's burning of karma. Secondly, Krishna takes our karma and gives us the token reaction. So that means we can also be even more pleased by that. Thank you, my Lord. You gave me, I'm burning out my karma. It's painful, but thank you, my Lord. You've minimized it. So then you're even grateful. You're even happy for that situation. And then you could take it further and says, okay, what is the Lord teaching me? What am I meant to learn from this? And you find in some cases you can learn many lessons, certain lessons that we need to accept and imbibe. And if you don't find any other lesson that you need to learn, then this is the lesson. That see, I forgot Krishna. Now I'm getting it. See, I'm not serving Krishna uninterrupted, unmotivated. Therefore, I'm getting it. So this is feedback. This is feedback that I need to become more dedicated in my service to Krishna, more uninterrupted and unmotivated. And therefore, I use that as an opportunity to grow stronger. Bhafana Prabhu says, I have tried to understand the key to these verses, which is satisfaction. We think the realization of the need for specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, as well as directing that service to Srila Prabhupada. Yes. For us, the beauty is Prabhupada has made it so much more easier that we can serve the deities, we can serve the mission, we can serve souls to prasadam, to book distribution, to harinam. We can use our abilities to paint. In so many ways, we can please Srila Prabhupada and please Krishna. Therefore, we're very fortunate that by engaging in the process of Krishna, the activities of Krishna consciousness, we can satisfy Prabhupada, we can satisfy Krishna, we can satisfy Lord Chaitanya, the disciplic succession, and ourselves. Thank you, Mother Archana Siddhi. Meena says, to solve our problems is to be fixed in devotional service. But what if devotional service is the problem? Please advise, Hare Krishna. How would devotional service be a problem? It may be that you want to do so much service that you don't have the time, okay? Or there may be different variables. So maybe if you can share an example of how devotional service is a problem to you, then maybe we can share some light. We may have a problem. Devotional service is the absolute solution. That doesn't mean I don't need to find a solution to my current problem. Just like I may not have a vehicle to go from where I want to go to a destination or to go to the temple. So because I don't have a vehicle doesn't mean I don't go to the temple. Doesn't mean that I don't make arrangements for me to get a vehicle. I understand that, yes, the reason I'm in the situation is because I left Krishna in the first place, or I forgot Krishna in the first place, or I'm not serving Krishna 100%. But that doesn't mean I can't embrace a practical solution, understanding that still ultimately the main solution to all my problems is pure devotional service. So I can still embrace practical solutions that will allow me to be more materially and spiritually situated so that I can embrace greater and greater pure devotional service. So give me an example of where devotional service is a problem, and then I can maybe shed a little more light. Mala says, Hare Krishna, thank you for the enlightening, wonderful class. Thank you, Mala. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for Krishna Katha. Every class is so rich and satisfying that even understanding one treasure is immensely and eternally beneficial. I'm so grateful to you and the Parampara. Thank you very much for your feedback. Yes, and the other wonderful thing is, by learning these lessons that we are getting week by week through the Bhagavatam, and taking those lessons and making it part of our DNA. Now they have technology that they can scan your DNA and they can actually recode every part, 64 different elements of that DNA. They can recode it to what they want. So if we take these instructions and make it part of our spiritual DNA, it'll be there for life, it'll be there for eternity. And that means that our life will become more and more blissful and spiritually situated because we are learning the right lessons in the right direction to embrace the Supreme Lord's eternal service. Jagannath Priya Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for today's most transcendental class. Really appreciate. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Example, struggling in chanting. So Meena says struggling chanting. Right. So struggling in chanting, that means to solve a problem, you say, is to be fixed in devotional service, but devotional service is the problem. So it's not devotional service that is the problem. Chanting and struggling in chanting. So chanting Hare Krishna is devotional service. Struggling to chant is struggling to practice devotional service. It's not that devotional service is the problem. The problem is that I'm weak. And because I'm weak, to embrace devotional service is a challenge. So the challenge is not devotional service. The challenge is my ability to embrace the process. Okay, and that's normal for a aspiring candidate. Therefore, there is no disqualification if you're struggling to chant, as long as you are trying to improve. I'll say that again. It's not a disqualification to struggle to chant, as long as you are trying to improve. Prabhupada had a disciple, Sudama, in Hawaii, and he was extremely sincere and dedicated. And I think it's Sudama, Sudama. So he would come and visit Srila Prabhupada very, very often. When Prabhupada would come to Hawaii, he would visit. And then when Prabhupada would go, then he would have difficulty and then he would leave. So he would come and go, come for a few months, leave for a few months, come for a few months, leave for a few months. So he would, he was convinced of Krishna consciousness, but he was having difficulty practicing. What about chanting? He was having difficulty with the four regular principles. So he was having difficulty. So one day Prabhupada came to Hawaii and Prabhupada asked the temple president, where's this devotee? And the temple president said, well, Prabhupada, he's Maya. He comes for a few months, then he leaves, goes back into Maya, comes for a few months, then he leaves. He can't stay as a devotee. Prabhupada's response was, just see how much he loves Krishna. And the temple president was surprised by that response. Prabhupada could see that, just see how much he loves Krishna, that even though he's struggling to follow the four regular principles, but he's not giving up Krishna. He's still making the effort to come. And when he's got enough enthusiasm and encouragement, then he's coming back, staying for some time, associate devotee, and then the weakness overpowers him and he goes back. Okay, so don't be overwhelmed by the challenge of chanting. We continue to practice with good association and never give up. And by sincerely trying to engage in devotional service and praying to the Lord, we will get the strength and the taste one day when the Lord is pleased. So pray to the holy name, keep endeavoring, and keep trying. It's not a problem. Remember, the first point I made is having a problem is not the problem. It's how you see the problem. So now if you're chanting and you're seeing that you have a difficulty, your mind is going away, that's feedback. Okay, you're getting the feedback from your mind. You're getting feedback that, oh, looks like I need to do some more work. Okay, I need to work on the mind. So then you try different ways of chanting. I'm busy designing a course. Well, we already have a Japa Shraya course, but we're going to take in the Japa Shraya course and we're going to work on 365 days of meditation of Japa. So with, every day we can meditate on the holy name, and in this way improve our chanting. So in different ways we can try to see how can I improve, and that's key. Always see, if Krishna is seeing that you're sincere and you're always endeavoring, then you will get the strength, and Krishna will give you the ability and talent to try to improve. Okay. Right, Bafana says, it is nice because the lecture can be downloaded, listen again and again freely while driving and sitting while working. Thank you for your service. Yes, thank you, Bafana Prabhu. Viresh Prabhu says, Hare Krishna Prabhu. What is the source of satisfaction that one experiences by reading Srimad Bhagavatam? Is reading Srimad Bhagavatam devotional service or about devotional service? Both. So, devotional service means hearing and chanting about Krishna. And Bhagavatam is Krishna. Therefore, by hearing from Bhagavatam, you're serving Krishna. Therefore, associating with the Bhagavatam is service, and glories about service, because we're hearing about the devotees of the Lord. So to hear Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam, all these 9 processes is pure devotional service, is devotional service. And therefore we will become satisfied. That is why when you're reading Bhagavatam, you will become satisfied. When you're hearing about Srimad Bhagavatam, you become satisfied. When you become inspired by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, and then you practically engage in devotional service, of which chanting and hearing is service, you become satisfied. And that satisfaction increases your taste to hear, taste to chant, taste to serve. Increases, and this cycle goes on until one day you don't want to do anything but hear and chant and glorify and serve Krishna. That is perfection. Thank you, Meena, for for the question. Bafana Prabhu, what's struggling to chant? In what way can it be explained? I'm not following. So struggling to chant means when we chant, I want to hear, I want to chant and hear. I want to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and I want to hear that. So Prabhupada gave us a sutra to measure our chanting. And Prabhupada said, you can measure your chanting by sincerely hearing, by hearing you chanting sincerely. You can measure your chanting by hearing you sincerely chanting, which means I'm hearing myself whether I'm sincerely chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. When you sincerely praying means you're focused, you're not distracted, your heart is in the chanting, and the intention is, my Lord, please engage me in your service. The practicality of that is when I start chanting, my mind goes off the tangent. I'll be chanting and my mind will be thinking of work. My mind will be thinking what I need to cook. My mind may be thinking of sense gratification. Prabhupada said, they asked Prabhupada, when you're chanting, can you think of devotional service? Prabhupada said, it's okay to think of devotional service. Not sinful, but it's not the best. The best is to think of nothing but the chanting, you're hearing, and you're begging, you're asking for service. So that the struggle that we all experience, and especially in the beginning, and for some longer than others, is that the mind keeps going off the tangent. It's not focused on simply hearing each syllable of the Hare Krishna mantra. Okay? And you may hear it for a few times and then the mind goes and comes back. You may hear it for a few times. So the practice is to bring the mind back to chant. And the mind gets distracted, you bring it back and chant. And as we get more and more purified, then the mind will have a taste to stay and be focused. So that's the struggle. Or another struggle is, I just don't have taste to chant. To pick up my beat back, it's like weights there. To pick up the beat and put my hand in the beat bag, it's difficult. Some people just don't have a taste to chant. Right? Some people can't chant 16 rounds at one stretch. It becomes difficult. So these are struggles, natural struggles that devotees have. Yeah. Hope that clarifies. Mother Les says, Hare Krishna Prabhu, Srila Vyasadeva still lives on a transcendental plane, correct? Yes. Is he Chiranjeevi? What is his purpose now? Why does he still live on earth? When is the post of Srila Vyasadeva to be replaced by another? Right. So Srila Vyasadeva is an empowered incarnation, and he is currently still living in Badrik Ashram, so that the next Vyasadeva can be trained and take the post. So his post for this, as Vyasadeva, is for a specific duration. And when that duration expires, then the next Vyasadeva takes over. According to Bhagavatam and the scriptures, is when the next Satya Yuga, next cycle starts, then what's Dronacharya's son's name? Ashwatthama. So Ashwatthama, if you know in the Mahabharata, he had a jewel in the center of his head. Ashwatthama is also Chiranjeevi, like Vyasadeva. And Ashwatthama, because he killed the 5 sons of Draupadi, and he also tried to kill Maharaj Parikshit, then he was punished. The jewel was taken from him, and he is practically suffering like a madman. And he's roaming around, suffering that pain for impacting the devotees' lives. And it's ascribed that he's now roaming around in the mountains like a crazy man, burning off his karma, and he is now going to be blessed to become the next Vyasadeva. And we may not know all of their services. Like we know Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Vedas. He may be teaching, just like, so for example, he's still there. And when Kalki is going to come, when other great personnel, devotees are going to come, and they need education, they need guidance, Srila Vyasadeva will be assisting. So in different ways, the Lord, Srila Vyasadeva and the devotees always have service. If they don't have service, their service is absorption in glorification of Krishna. Right? So in that sense, there is always some service for the devotees. So that's a little that I'm aware of in terms of Srila Vyasadeva. Bafana Prabhu, I've committed some days not to take my hands off the beat bag. Excellent. But to keep it in and chant everywhere I am without care, who is looking and controlling my mind from talking too much things not aligned to keeping my hand in the beat bag chanting. That is wonderful. Excellent. Yes, thank you so much for that. And that's how we become attached to chanting. Just like sometimes what I do is I take off 3 days from work. Nirjal, sometimes festival days, I take 3 days. And then my goal is, like how you said, put your hand in the bead bag and don't give it up, right? So put your hand in the bead bag and chant for 3 days and nights, non-stop. Don't take your bead bag out. The only time you take your bead bag out, not when for your sleeping, but for taking prasad. So you take your bead bag out for prasad, and then you keep your bead bag back in and you start chanting. And it's a very good it's a very good practice to show you how powerful the mind can be and how sleep can push you, right? So that way it's a good practice. Now you may try the first day and it's like, wow, it's a struggle, but you keep trying it, then you see it becomes easier. Eventually, when your hand is not in the bead bag, Bafana Prabhu, you feel odd. See, right now to put your hand in the bead bag may be an odd thing. Soon you'll get so accustomed to having your bead bag in your hand that when it's not in there, you feel odd. That means you're developing such a taste to chant that not chanting becomes difficult. Yeah, so wonderful. Thank you for inspiring us to also try to keep our bead bag. That's why Prabhupada made the bead bag in such a way, right, that we can keep it on our neck so that it's always with us. One time, Srila Prabhupada, so you'll see when you go to the temple, they hang the bead bag on like a hook. So Prabhupada was very aware, very conscious. He was very alert. So maybe a few days, Prabhupada noticed this bead bag, same place. So Prabhupada said, whose bead bag is crying? Crying, saying, please chant on me, please chant on me, please chant. So whose bead bag is crying? Because somebody's not chanting. So Prabhupada asked, whose bead bag is crying? So I'm very happy that you doing that. Please continue and pray for us, pray for me, that we may also develop a taste like that for chanting. Thank you. All right. Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much for all your feedback and wonderful questions. Next week, we are going to be starting chapter 5, verses 1 to 7. And now we're going to hear Narad Muni's response and why Srimad Bhagavatam is the one and absolute solution, or why is pure devotional service expounded by the Srimad Bhagavatam the absolute solution, and why Srimad Bhagavatam is such a glorious scripture. So thank you very much. If there's no other questions, we will continue with next week Saturday, Bhagavatam class. Next week Sunday is also Balaram's appearance day in South Africa. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki jai, Nitai Go Pramanande Hari Hari.